Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That is the podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I'm going to be one of your co-hosts.
And I am your fantastically genetically engineered other co-host, Distance.
And tonight is the Metacast movie show about Get Out. Get Out is a 2017 thriller horror written and directed by Jordan Peele.
It stars Daniel Kaluuya, whose name I just butchered, Allison Williams, Catherine Keener, and Bradley Whitford.
The budget for this movie was about $4.5 million, with a box office take around $255.4 million.
The tomato meter rating was 98%, with an audience score of 86%.
In his first attempt at a horror movie, Jordan Peele's Get Out follows Chris, who's a young black man, and meeting his girlfriend Allison, his white girlfriend Allison's parents for the first time. So while this situation can be scary for anyone, make anyone a little nervous, Chris finds things to be a little weirder than he thinks whenever he shows up at their house. So this movie, I really enjoyed this. I feel like I say that a lot of weeks, but I was very pleasantly surprised by this. Came out of nowhere. I love Jordan Peele's work in Key and Peele. I think the dude's hilarious. Seeing that he made a horror movie, I was like, very interested to check it out. And as I watched it, was very pleasantly surprised with what I saw and where it went. This is the type of movie that I really enjoy to talk about on this show because it was an entertaining and enjoyable watch. But at the same time, I think there are a lot of undertones that the creator wants. There's a larger conversation that I feel like the creator is trying to create. They're trying to initiate, and that's exactly what we want to do here. Is look at the deeper stuff behind a movie. So as far as giving this a verdict, I don't want to spoil too much about it. I feel like it's very easy to try to kind of ruin things in this movie. Spoiler Terry could very easily fuck this up. So this one, I do have to give a yes. I think going in with not really much knowing about it is kind of the best way to go, and I think it's a great watch. Where do you land on this one?
Yeah. So first time round with this movie, I kind of missed out on it because if I'm honest, the only thing I knew is that it was kind of spooky or creepy and that it had something to do with like racism maybe. And I was like, I already hate horror films. So if you add what I thought was racism to it, like, well, that just makes it worse horror film. So I just never fucked with it. And I do agree there's a lot of other stuff going on here. And it's definitely the kind of film that we want to talk about here because of all the undertones and some of the intent of the creator. And one thing I want to mention about Jordan Peele is that when I found out he did a film that was like a thriller type horror, a lot of people were like, that's so weird. I thought he was a comedian, but there's a couple Key and Peele sketches, man, where some of that shit comes out. There's one where he and Keegan are in the car together and they're listening to his like iPod or something like that. And some weird, creepy recording comes on and like, it's Jordan talking about like how he's like won him over and something weird about making a Keegan suit or whatever. It's fucking strange.
That's
and he's
funny.
like, dude, we can just skip this one, bro. We can skip it. He's like, no, we're going to listen to this. And then there's another one called, I think the sketch was called Continental or Continental Breakfast or some shit.
Okay, I was going to say the Continental was weird, that sketch with
that was Christopher Walken.
Yeah, Christopher Walken from Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
But it was like a continental breakfast thing. And he's like, it's this weird old timey guy that Jordan plays at a hotel. And at the end, there's some weird thing where Keegan plays a concierge and he's like, oh, you've always been here. And it zooms into some weird picture from the 1920s.
Kind of like the end of The Shining or whatever.
Yeah. Like, so you could see little hints of Jordan having this kind of, and I have a feeling that a lot of this stuff now looking at his work with this film, and I haven't seen Us, but apparently that's pretty scary too.
I want to check it out.
I'm starting to really understand like that clearly. I think a lot of those sketches that had the weird shit in them had something to do with his creative energies. This is probably the longest should you watch section I've done.
I do also, I think a lot of good comedy comes from dark places. So it's like, even though it seems like a contrast, I think that like it kind of makes sense when you really think about it. But
Oh yeah, and so for this one, I mean, in case it's not glaringly obvious, this is a yes for me for sure. If you're one of those unfortunate people that hasn't seen it, which is unlikely, you really need to.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff there, and it's gonna make you think some things that maybe you have thought, maybe you didn't think, and that are important, I think, to talk about. And this is a movie where, unlike Inception, you'll have a conversation that's actually fucking worth a shit at the end of it.
Exactly. And yeah, but before Spoiler Terry jumps out here, yeah, to echo what you were saying, not only, I think that it's perfect for us because it has exactly what I want to do with this, which is analyzing yourself and learning something about yourself through the media. And I think this movie can do that, where you may realize about yourself things or ways you've acted that is like, oh shit, what am I doing something that's, along these, like, can I better myself by learning from this movie? And I think that, yeah, I think that's a great example of what we try to do here. Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's get Spoiler Terry out here. All right. Get out of here. All right. So, you did say, again, first time watching this. We've got a few of the last few movies in a row, I think, were your first time seeing, right? That's sweet.
Yeah. It's funny because I think that what's kind of happened with me over the years is that I worked at like a video store. And if you don't know what that is, then you're too young to date either of us. And I watch movies all the time, and if I'm honest, like I get annoyed by all the TV shows on Netflix. I wish there were more movies. I think just for a little while I kept up with movies so closely that I just got kind of burned out on them, I guess.
I could see that.
And some movies, like I wasn't really that crazy into it anymore watching them like right when they came out. And I think you said it before, like doing the show has kind of like made me realize like how much I really do enjoy movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
this is just I think it's changed how I watch them too, which I think is interesting.
Oh yeah, same here. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I say, like when I watched Wes Anderson, the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah. Yep.
Did we do an episode on that?
No, we talked about it, but we
oh, okay.
There's one Wes Anderson movie that was on
another Wes Anderson film that I also haven't seen.
Yep.
So I was watching the Royal Tenenbaums with my girlfriend a while ago, and I found myself really paying so much more attention to the camera work. But it's certainly changed the way that I watch movies too. But for this movie too, like now that Spoiler Terry is out, I can say it now that it wasn't, because the stuff that I heard and the things that I saw in the previews, I thought that it was just very clear cut, like racist something.
Yep.
And I was just like, I fucking hate horror films, and any reasonable person doesn't like racism. So I was just like, fuck this movie.
Yep.
But now I realize there's a lot more to it than that. There's so many fucking layers to this movie.
Yeah.
I would like to first draw attention to one of the things I tend to talk about a lot. There is a white Porsche 944 in this movie.
But that was the opening scene, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of the movie, I was like, 944. I was like, that has to be significant to the plot. Then it does a U-turn. I'm like, yep, that's part of the plot. Front engine Porsche, that's cool. But the driver's an asshole.
Yeah.
So that kind of ruins things.
A really cool thing about that, we're talking about how this podcast has changed the way I watch movies. I don't know if I would have picked out that was a one cut scene without like the way that I now watch movies. Like now that intro scene being one long cut of the camera, like not even cutting and following him down the road and then back and everything, like the logistics of filming that scene were just really fucking cool. And it's like, I have completely changed how I watch movies to where now almost part of my brain is like in a filmmaker mentality of like, how would I shoot this scene, or how would I do this? And realizing it's like, oh shit, like that would have been a tough production day. Like you're trying to get this one long take of like, he's got to walk down, say all these lines, turn around, the car's got a U-turn, like all this shit. Like that's like just the pure logistics of that scene I think are cool. And it's like all of that shit kind of just goes unnoticed sometimes.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So yeah, that was like a follow.
Yeah.
And like with a gimbal, probably on foot. And then, oh shit, dude, I didn't even notice that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that means it's very well done.
As he walks by, doesn't the camera kind of like stop and let him move, but not out of the frame, then it rotates around him?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's great camera work. Where you can see the car.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was great job.
Now that you mention it. And then also like That I bet they had to pick out a good street too, where the car could actually turn all the
Yeah.
way around with
Yep.
no problems.
Yep.
I wonder how many times they fucked that up.
And then of course securing the location, like not only finding the street, but then like being like, okay, we need to like close this street for whatever hours and shit like that. Like, yeah.
And then if you could also like the way that he like grabs the guy and wrestles him, you have to be certain that the camera's at the right angle, he's at the right position to where it doesn't give away too much of who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't immediately recognize him during the film. I wonder how many times they had to film that.
Plus, not to mention, you have to have two actors that are able to do the physical part of that scene so convincingly at the end of a long take, not to ruin it. You know, so it's like, yeah, there's a lot that just goes into, and then it basically is, you know, if done right, not really noticed, which I think is so interesting that it's like, I think that happens in most art. The vast amount of the work goes into little tiny details that are mostly unnoticed. I think that they're subconsciously noticed, but yeah, I don't think that, I think music is the same way. You spend so much time on these tiny little details that a lot of people may not even ever really notice. But
yeah, it's like the one day, like when you first started streaming and we had like that brief conversation where I was like, oh dude, I know you put all this energy into your lighting, but bro, nobody else cares. But that's the thing that I've realized now, and actually even after the conversation we had, like I recognize, wait a second, the people that are watching it, they don't know that they care.
Yes. Yep.
But they definitely do. So if you haven't noticed Ty's great lighting and his cool background, you really should right now because he's worked very hard on it.
Yeah.
You never noticed it before, but that's why it's so good.
Exactly. I think I have had it brought out to me. The notice that people have had is just the contrast with yours. It's more that it's like, man, his background looks really shitty because yours looks good. I do. Someone did mention though, like it does look like my background is spilling into yours now more. It is kind of like I'm taking territory. Yeah, I'm expanding.
I kind of like when I got the smart lights in here, like I wanted it so I could cast something on the wall back there. And I thought it would be kind of fun if I made it the same color as yours. But now that it is really weird how much it looks like it's just basically like spilling over here.
Yeah, it looks like I'm just over there. Yeah. That would be really funny if we could have like, could you get a fake arm of mine that's tattooed the same way and we could just have it like come in from the frame that way every once in a while? Like I could
just like poke me in the side of the head or whatever.
Hold on, that's not my tattooed arm. Never mind, it doesn't work.
I just leaned the wrong way. I should lean this way. So.
Yeah, it's tough trying to do that. Yeah. Anyways, hold on. Are we talking about a movie here? I feel like there's. But yeah, but back to I think so that first scene though, I think it like not only is like really cool the way they did it, but sets the tone really well too. You immediately just kind of know what you're in for, like you know where the movie's going, but not in a giveaway way, in a way that it's just like, oh shit, like I'm drawn in, I'm interested.
Yeah, and they cut straight to the credit to that weird fucking music. And I you know what? I should have looked up who that was.
Childish Gambino. That is a badass. Yeah, it's called Redbone. It's an awesome. I actually added that to my Spotify playlist after the intro. Yeah, it's off of that. Off of his. I don't know if it's actually still his most recent album, but it was the most recent album. Whatever.
I wonder
this movie came out.
I've heard this song and I didn't recognize it. He only raps like a couple verses in that song, right?
A lot of that album is very R&B influenced. There, I've heard the title of that album, but there's quite a few tracks on there where he doesn't even have a single verse on it. Yeah, he did a lot more of just the production and singing and some other stuff. But
that's weird that I didn't recognize that was his song.
What's really cool, I think Peele does a lot with interesting music. Even have you seen the trailer for Us? With the song that's used in that, there's like a it's like a super slow version of the I Got 5 on It song. It's like a halftime down like shifted version of that. It creates a really cool atmosphere for the trailer. That it's like I appreciate his sound design a lot, especially when it comes to the music like that.
And what is this song? Because he's listening to a weird ass song in the car when he pulls up too.
That I'm not sure about. That one, I don't know.
That shit was creepy by itself too, and it kind of throws you off a little bit because that music sounded like it was from the 1940s. The car is from the 1980s.
Yeah,
and the clothing is recent, and then the one dude's talking on a smartphone. So it's like, it's all really weird. And then like when they go to Chris's apartment, now the music is straight up soul.
Yep.
And it's like, okay.
They definitely kind of like, the aesthetics are like, Chris is really black, by the way. Like, like the art, everything is like, by the way, like, let's show like.
Look at his photography.
Yeah.
Like, you see this? And it's, but the one thing that bothers me.
What's that?
Chris has a Windows phone.
I did not even notice that. What a fucking psycho. He's the villain. He's obviously the actual villain. We misunderstood the movie the whole time.
They gave him a Windows phone because he's obviously the villain, and every other character that's not on a Windows phone is the good guy.
And this was 2017. That was like way after when the Windows phone had already failed, right? It's not like this was like. And I wonder if that was like an actual choice by Peele to just like be like, he's gonna have a weird ass phone, like
yeah. By that point, like the Windows phone was pretty much established as garbage. And if you look, like the most popular movie phones are iPhones. Typically, people are using iPhones in film. And I think maybe Peele just decided, like, I don't want to drink the fucking Kool-Aid. We're getting him a Windows phone.
I always wonder little stuff like that. It's like, did he want to say something about the character with that? Like, was that a conscious decision he made? I wonder. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah. And so since we're kind of at the beginning of the episode, I want to talk about something that happens at the beginning. We talked a little bit about jump scares. And it's weird because I didn't jump for the deer.
I did. That came out of nowhere for me.
Okay. Maybe this sounds weird. Do you understand what I mean when I say I had an inside jump? Yeah.
Like it definitely startled you, but you didn't physically move or anything. Yeah. Okay.
So I felt it, but I didn't move.
I spilled my water.
Something.
I actually knocked over a glass of water with it. Yeah. I literally it sucked.
Oh, that's great.
Thanks, Peele.
Okay, it wasn't that bad for me, but there was when we get to it, I'll tell you the part that I jumped for. I have a feeling you might already know which part it was, but there's something kind of oddly personal for me about the deer scene where Chris actually walks over to look at it.
That was interesting. Yeah.
Okay, this is weird, but there's a place where I have been riding motorcycles for many years. It's about an hour and a half north of here. And there's one spot that I always stop at. It's like this little like slow vehicle turnoff. So I'll put the side stand down, get off the bike and walk around a little bit. And one day when I got off my bike, I walked over to the edge of the road. This is in a mountainous area. Okay. So there's a nice little, not a huge, but like a little drop right off the road. It's like maybe 3 or 4 feet. And I had this weird thing happen where I walked over and I looked down and there was this partially decayed deer carcass. Like you could see part of its skull and its teeth and like some of the skin was still there and you could see some of the flesh like rotting off of it. And I had this really weird moment. I was pretty young. I want to say like 23 or 24. Okay. And I had this weird moment where like, for whatever reason, me looking at this deer carcass, I was like, I am going to die and there's nothing I can do about it. Yeah. And I don't know why that happened, but I took a picture of it because it looks like the album cover. Huh?
That was apparently the purpose of I don't know if it was popular in the Renaissance or what time period, but keeping like a skull on your desk, a human skull, it was to remind yourself of your mortality and stuff like that. And I mean, it is just supposed to like, so it makes sense that moment is like, yeah, of course you realize like shit. Yeah, I will be disintegrating into the ground just like that one day. Yeah.
And it's just a weird thing. I mean, it's funny because like and that carcass was there. Like I went there several weekends in a row and like, I just watched it kind of crumble into nothingness. Then at a certain point, it just got buried by leaves and dirt and stuff over the years, and it's just not there anymore. I'm sure it's buried underneath, but it was just a weird experience for me. That's interesting. At that age.
That reminds me of the clip that was used in Adaptation in other places, but that fox decaying that I've seen a lot of places where it's like I don't know how many months that camera was there, but it's like you see a long time lapse. Yeah.
That's a very popular one too, and you know, and I like that what they did that's good. for a horror film, or maybe I would call this more of a psychological thriller.
Yeah,
A
I agree.
bit with a little bit of jumps, but
Yeah.
when they give you like a weird visual like that toward the beginning of the film, like to give the audience this sort of uneasy feeling, but it was the sounds, because like that,
Yes. Yeah.
I've never heard a deer die before, but from what I've heard described to me, I'm fairly certain that's more or less exactly what they sound like.
Mm-hmm. It was eerie too. Yeah. When there was
Oh yeah,
also
like
just
this.
that scene too, like I wasn't sure exactly what was going on with Chris. Like, was it just him, thinking of the mortality of the moment and stuff like that, or were the hooks of something starting to set in, like the pre-hypnosis? You know what I mean? Like he just seemed out of it in a way that didn't really align with what was going on, unless he was already in his head more about the situation that he was going to and stuff like that, rather than just the deer. But I mean, okay. Did he see himself as the deer walking into like a situation with predators? Was that more like, was he like, thinking of what he was walking into and like
He about to get hit by what was that, a Lincoln? Yeah, I mean it's possible, and I mean it like it was one of those Omen type moments, or
yeah, a little bit of foreshadowing maybe, or like
yeah, and he's already nervous about the situation, and there's not, we don't really get a whole lot of development
mm-hmm.
with Chris.
Yeah.
Because I think the situations and the reactions of other people to him are more kind of, I think, what the film's about.
Yeah. I think you get the perfect amount of development of Rose and Chris. You see just the little glimpse of how they interact. You see just a little glimpse of them being cute together, and enough to trust the relationship. And I think that I think there's almost the perfect amount of development there. But I do agree with you. Yeah, there's not a lot that we get there. And part of it made me wonder, like, do you remember him walking up to the deer in that scene? There's a close-up shot of his boots with these blue laces. That it's like, was there a reason for that? Like, it seemed like that was a shot that was shown for. So it seemed purposeful, but then it was like, I don't know what that means, what that is supposed to signify.
Well, that's also like a unique thing that you see, like, so being that I like sneakers a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the other people that I know that are really into sneakers are also really into boots. And if you're a sneakerhead, if you're going to buy a pair of boots, you buy a pair of Nubuck Timberlands. That's just what you buy. And it is a common thing and this isn't relevant to the plot of the film, it's just an observation I made. It's a common thing to tie the laces around the back like that instead of using the eyelets.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know if it's a fashion thing or if it's just I don't feel like using the eyelets, because if you look, the crisscross of the eyelets versus like going all the way around the back of the shoe and then tying it again, it works just as well. And I don't
guess,
know if
that would make sense.
But I don't know if they're just trying to like show his fashion sense. I have no idea. But I don't know. Perhaps I will do some digging later and see if there's something that Peele or any other number of the creators might have meant by it. But
I wonder if it was more just along the lines of I wonder if it was more just like along the lines of the setting the tone in his apartment of just like, this is his aesthetic. Like he wears his shoes this way, like like it comes across as more authentic, I guess.
Yeah, I guess like establishing some sort of like I don't know, identity. I don't know what else to call it. Aesthetic is a good word.
A little bit of development, somewhat like a little subcon.
Yeah, something. We got a little bit of something there. And, actually, you know what? I typed in here, is the deer a metaphor ? So I don't remember typing that in my phone watching the movie, but so okay, there's some stuff. Okay, all right. Looking back on the film, Chris gets there. Dean calls him my man, which when I heard that, I was like, eye roll. Have you ever seen the movie House Guest with Sinbad?
House Guest? I have not, no.
Okay, well, there's a scene where he goes out with like 3 or 4 like older white guy like dentists, and one of them says, "Slap me 5, brother." And Sinbad's like, "How about I just slap you?"
I want to start using that. Slap me 5, brother.
What's like, yeah, you gotta say it just like that. Slap me 5, brother.
Yeah.
But that kind of I think of it that way, like when I hear like somebody say something like that, and
Yeah.
and Rose mentions it later. But okay,
Yeah.
there's the ID scene with the cop where
Or,
Rose, you know,
or
says
when
it's
you hear
stupid,
someone
right?
say, "I would have voted for Obama the third time if I could," I'm like,
Yeah,
best
and like
president
when
of
I
my
heard that
lifetime,
at the
hands
beginning,
down.
yeah, it's okay. So he says, "My man." There's a part where Rose does the ID thing with the cop, where the cop asks for Chris's ID for no reason.
Which I
There's
thought that scene was
the
kind of cool. I liked
oh
that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, at the beginning of the movie, I thought it was cool, and it's like another thing I think to sort of pull the audience in that direction
Yeah.
to not suspect Rose of anything.
Yep.
And then there's what you just mentioned. I would vote for Obama a third time. The part where he's talking about his dad getting beaten by a runner at the Olympics, and then talking about how Hitler was there with his Aryan race bullshit, and a black man comes out and beats the shit out of everybody. There's
He
all
almost
these
got
things
over it.
that you hear. Yeah, almost got over it. There's all these things that you hear him say that many characters in the film say, where I'm like, wow, you guys, it's weird how much the family sold that.
Yeah.
With what it was they were trying to do.
Yep.
And to some degree, it makes me, are these people just the most progressive psychopaths in the world?
Possibly. I mean, I think a lot of it is just, I mean, of course, meant to be the undertones of like the type of racism that we see so much in the world now, that it is not the overt in your face racism. You know, it comes in packages like that, you know, where like
it's also not defined in the same way, really.
Yes, yeah, true. Yeah.
I heard Coleman Hughes say it, that the accusation is pointed, but the definition is broad.
That's an interesting way of putting that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got like I'm paraphrasing and butchering the hell out of what he actually said, but you know, it's like we have a broader definition of what we mean now. It's not just the deeply held belief that you think that one race is better than another based. It's like that for a made up reason, you think that this thing that we made up makes somebody like less capable or good than another person.
That's where a lot of like the weird race realism conversations become like strange, where it's like it's a weird brand of racism where someone's like for instance what the brother was claiming in the movie, where it's like oh, your genetic disposition is so great that you're superior with this, that like it's like that is, you know, you're technically on the surface you are not calling someone inferior, but it is a weird like race focused level of like, you know what I mean, like it's
the thing is that it's and actually I wrote that line down. Can I read it?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
He says, this is what he says, quote, "'Cause with your frame and your genetic makeup, if you really pushed your body, I mean really trained, you know, no pussyfooting around, you could be a fucking beast." This is a weird theme about the movie, is that it's not what's the word? Disparaging.
Yeah.
It's admiration.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
However,
like very
well, and as we learn, it's probably like he's really thinking of the way as like, I want your body. Like he wants to like, yeah, it's he's like he wants to train in that body and see what he can do with it, which is like very strange. But yeah, there is like an admiration to it in some degree, but it is still like, I think what it comes down to is it is a heavy embracing of stereotypes, to where, you know, it like the whole like when you the whole like Asians being good at math thing, that's not technically a negative stereotype, but it is like, you know, it is like when you are just painting people with a broad brush like that, it is this like interesting flavor of racism where, yeah, you're not actually claiming that someone is inferior, but you are claiming that you know something or can know something about a broad group of people simply based on their race.
Yeah, and you know, like I make jokes about it a lot, because I mean, I say that, like, you know, I'm a half Indian kid that sucks at math, so my father's terribly disappointed in me.
Yep.
But it's not that my dad's Indian; it's the fact that he's an engineer.
Yeah.
So
yep.
I mean, it's like he doesn't know what it's like to not understand like algebra, mathematics, or trig. Like that shit's just like he came out signing and co-signing, it's not, it just doesn't seem like it was ever hard for him. The scene, like, cause that shit was weird. Cause like, okay, dude, seriously though, like, I got Jeremy, right? The brother.
Yeah.
Jeremy is like, he is douche city, bro.
Great job for the actor. I don't know who that was that played him, but yeah.
It's I looked him up. Actually, I stopped and looked him up. It's Caleb Landry Jones.
Okay, what do I know him from?
He was in. He played not Havoc. Banshee. He played Banshee in one of the James McAvoy X-Men films.
He was also in that 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri movie.
I've never seen that.
Oh, it's one. I mean, it's a tearjerker Oscar. It's a good movie, but it's like, it's obviously a good movie.
It looks like it's the same year. I just looked it up. It was the same, 2017.
Okay. I think that's where I recognize him from, though. I feel like it was that movie.
He was in the Twin Peaks remake, it looks like, but what I recognize him from was from X-Men.
Okay.
And he was made up a lot differently. Like he had different, hair. He didn't have the facial hair either. It was a different character, but
yeah.
So it was hard to recognize him from that movie, but it was, one of those, where do I know him from things. But, it's like, it's weird how there are some things that sometimes people will still say when they're older that used to be not a big deal, that somehow become like a problem later.
Yeah. Like as society changes and the norms change and shit. Yeah.
And there's a thing that I have said before that I think is maybe a little different because it's more anecdotal. I wouldn't meet someone who's Jewish and assume they were super smart.
Okay.
But all of the Jewish people that I've known over the years have been really smart.
Okay.
I've never personally known someone who is Jewish that wasn't wicked smart about something. But like, sometimes I wonder, is because it's based on my experience, but I'm not going to assume that when I find out that someone is Jewish, particularly Ashkenazi, that I'm going to be like, well, you must be really smart. I hear you Jews are smart. Like I wouldn't say that, because maybe this is the point where my experience will change.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll meet someone who I don't think is super intelligent. And that's kind of the thing is like, well, like I worked at a Vietnamese restaurant and I had a guy say to me, he was like, "You ain't Chinese." And I was like, "I'm not Vietnamese either, sir."
Yeah, that is a fact.
And just kind of walked off. I was like, the restaurant's called Saigon, for God's sake. Where the what? Like,
We got a lot of people that aren't really great with geography. Saigon
true.
is one of the areas in China, right?
Yeah, it's one of isn't that?
I mean, like I could hear someone saying that. Like if I overheard someone saying that, like, in the line of the gas station or something, I wouldn't I'm not going to break my neck turning and be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. And, samurai are from Korea. Like
that's true.
Okay.
The ninjas were from North Korea. The samurai were from South Korea. That's why they fought. It was the Great Ninja War of 1956. Yeah. I know all about
it. There you go. We know history here. Yeah. If you want to catch us on our history podcast, there's one part, and okay, I'm going to get to the part that I jumped. Okay. Can you guess which part made me jump?
I can't think of it. The main jump that stood out to me was the deer. The other really freaky thing that stood out to me was Walter running at him in the night, but that wasn't like a jump moment.
It's before that.
Before that.
When Georgina runs past him in the hallway.
Oh, yes.
The old hallway scare.
Yeah.
It's an old favorite.
But it's mostly the sound, right? Wasn't it like a sharp stab of like the, Yep.
Yeah. And then also like the way that she moves, like she walks in a sort of strange fashion.
Yes.
Which, by the way, man, fucking wow for those two.
Yeah.
Let's see, Georgina and Walter, they were played by Marcus Henderson and Betty Gabriel.
Yeah, those performances were fantastic. Yeah.
Andre Logan King is played by Lakeith Stanfield, and they all did a fantastic job. Because I had this weird, I think I had a note in there when I watched it, because I think that this guy Lakeith Stanfield was on a show called The Journey of Alan Strange on like Nickelodeon in like 1990 something.
Okay.
Or maybe it was just called Alan Strange. I might be mistaken.
It's not the same guy. At least it is not on his IMDb page. He may have been uncredited, but
maybe he's been in other stuff then, or maybe it's just called Alan Strange.
Or maybe is Get Out teaching you that you're racist? That's what it taught me, because we think they look the same. I thought Daniel Daniel Kaluuya? I thought that was the same guy from Midsommar, which is also the same guy from The Good Place, but it's not. This is a totally different guy. I think it taught me that I'm just racism. That I'm just racist. It must be racism, man. I am racism.
You yourself are racism. Wait, really though? Like no meme here?
Well, I mean, no meme.
Like, all joking aside,
I haven't seen Get Out in like literally probably I saw it when it was new, and for some reason I did remember the lead as being the same guy from the Good Place and Midsommar. Yeah.
Okay, R.J. Smith is the name of the actor that played Alan Strange.
Okay,
but he looks well. Okay, where the hell else do I know Lakeith Stanfield from? I'm gonna find this out. I'm gonna.
He was in Knives Out. He was Lieutenant Elliot in Knives Out. Oh shit! Okay. He was also in Selma. Did you ever see Selma? With was it the dude that played King? David. Oh, how do you pronounce his last name? Oelio? You know who I'm talking about? You never saw Selma though? That Selma was well done, man. That was pretty. God, I need to stop fucking saying that. It was another one of the you know, it's kind of like a tearjerker Oscar movie. You know, it's set up to make you feel some feels.
And next week, more emotional masochism from the Metacast podcast.
Yep.
This guy does great work, man.
I butchered his last name, but yeah, I love him though. Yeah.
Wasn't he in, what else did we see him in? He was in another film that we did, right? Oh, Midnight Sky.
Yes. Yep.
He was in a few others too that I think I've seen that I really enjoyed. But yeah, but there is like this idea that when someone is like of a certain like genetic background, that when they're around other people that have similar genes, that when they're around someone else that's not, like for instance, when people say the thing like the abrasive way, which is, oh, they all look the same, about whatever ethnic group it happens to be, that what happens is people will say like a German person goes to the Philippines. They're going to notice the difference between like their facial features that other people's in the area are much different than theirs.
Yes.
They'll notice the difference before they'll notice the details.
Yes.
And what will happen, like, okay, for instance, like I'm dating a black woman, and we spent the holidays, we spent Thanksgiving at her aunt and uncle's house, and they have like 9 kids, I think.
Dude, you better be careful saying that. Biden's gonna come get you, man. Was that allowed? You weren't allowed to. You traveled for the holidays there were 9 kids in the household. That's illegal, man. We're all right. We're shutting it down. We got it's a good episode. Got done. All right.
But I can't do this anymore. But yeah, there's many of them. But the thing is that people that are related tend to resemble one another, and the more people there are in the family, you'll notice that certain clusters of children will resemble each other and others won't so much, that they've got enough kids, and it might be more than that actually. I could tell you 3 people's names, maybe 6, I don't know. I could tell a few people's names, but I just met so many people so quick that it was like, what's going on?
that was literally in this movie. Chris steps out and like he gives them like 7 people, and he's like, yeah, it's a lot of names really fast. Like, nice to meet you guys. But
yeah, he just straight up tells them, which is, I mean, you gotta be you got to have some grace for the guy if he's going to be that honest.
Mhm.
But I had this moment where I thought to myself, like, I thought, okay, people that are related to each other look the same. Most of her cousins look very similar. Is this because they're cousins, or do I have some weird like bias thing that I should be worried about? Like, which I mean, really and truly, I don't necessarily think it's a fucked up thing to talk about someone of another like ethnic group.
Mm.
That term we made up for this thing that we call it. That to say something like, "Oh, they all look the same," like that's very like that's not the phrasing's bad, and there's an implication in the statement, but I don't think there's necessarily a shame in not being able to tell some individuals apart when they're the disparity between your facial features and the facial features of the people that you're related to are that different. Like that to me is just like a normal thing.
Well, and I think that's what it comes down to is like the accusation, like quote unquote, they all look the same is like there's something about this them that is like different rather than like I'm not able to distinguish a difference between face. It's like it kind of puts the onus on like, oh, well, they look a certain way or something like that. I think that's why it rubs people the wrong way rather than it's like, because if you are right, that it's like if you just flesh that out the right way, that it's like, oh, of course, like you are able to perceive the differences in facial features that are subtle less whenever they don't closely resemble your face. You are able to perceive the different. Same thing when we look at animals, like when we look at cats. Cats probably see each other and are able to see their faces as distinctly different. And you look at a cat and like the subtle difference in cheekbone, placement and stuff, you may not even perceive as like a different face, where if it was a human face, you would, but because that's what we look for.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, if you're around like a pet long enough, then you'll start to kind of know the difference. I think, I don't know, but between them and maybe another pet with the same, like a tabby versus another tabby.
Yeah.
But it also, when you say the them thing, it creates a sense of other.
Exactly. Yes.
And like this feeling of tribalism that you define this person as the other.
Yep.
And when you do that, that makes that person dangerous. And that's like part of a way that we're built.
Yeah.
So if you can control your perception of who they are, then you can sort of rein in your own tribalism, where you won't want to marginalize or push someone aside or push someone away because you think that some group is the other tribe. Because for me, like, I have noticed that there are some people that I've talked to that somehow me being white is the most valuable thing that I have in common with the person.
Yeah. That's always a weird conversation when you realize that there's like that they tend to like see that as a reason to bond. That it's yeah.
And I kind of I would there's more value in meeting another cyclist or another I don't know, shooter, someone else that goes to the range, or another gamer, or another movie enthusiast, or another metalhead, or another person that likes just music enthusiast. Like there's so many other things that I could have in common with them. They're so much more valuable to me than that.
Well, and I think that any of those are going to tell you more about that person and give you more of a reason to think that you have something actually in common than just simply skin tone.
Right. Yeah. Because like it's because I've had this conversation with people before, and I don't think of particularly like racial or ethnic prejudice or racial or ethnic stereotyping as a moral issue. I think it's just logic. Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And there's no, and like that's it. Like for me, there's no need to go any further. It makes no sense. Well, I have no morality in the conversation. It's logic. But I guess people's belief could create immoral behavior.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think like you're saying though, there is a non-zero part of it that is kind of built into just the tribalism of being human. And there, like, and that is the subconscious, like the instinctual part that you are able to overcome. But there's going to be that small part of like, oh, people that look more closely to me are for some reason more trustworthy. You know, it's like that like any step of logic and rational thought, you can then, you know, tear that down and realize like, oh, well, hold on, there is no reason for me to actually believe this. But I do think that just does kind of exist somewhere deep in human, like the human DNA as being a remnant of like, oh, and we needed that to survive. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that is still there that was useful that may not be
Yeah.
anymore,
Yep.
and that's something that I think we all have to be aware of because you know, I heard and I so okay.
Well, real
The
quick
reason why I
before we
mentioned
get away from that, because I did
yeah,
want to touch on though, because I'm realizing like as we're talking about that, I think that it is like I'm criticizing the idea, and that like it is like almost to me ridiculous. Like I would never walk into a room and be like, oh, thank God there's another white dude here. Let me go and talk to him and like make sure he's like, oh, you know, and say that to him, be like, hey, yeah, hey brother, like let's, you know, that is just not a way that I would think. With that being said though, I did not at all criticize it when Chris in the movie was talking to Georgina and was like, you know, sometimes I just get nervous when there's too many white people around, and like was talking to her as like, you know, hey, it does feel a little better to talk to someone of the same race. Like I'm wondering, like, do I make that concession because is it different coming from the perspective of a minority? When you are the majority, it doesn't really matter to look for some, you know, like that is that part of what people call white privilege, where it's like I don't need to worry about when I go to an area, like it's almost guaranteed that there will be others of my race there. Versus like when you are in a minority group, you may go somewhere and you are the only one of your race. And while I think we both agree that I don't think that actually matters, there may be a subconscious part of you that feels some sort of alienation just simply because of that.
uh, yeah, I think that for me, a lot of the, at least from my perception of things, I don't understand. Like I'm not black, so
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing that I can say that's experientially is that
Mm-hmm.
a word,
It is now. Yeah.
relevant.
Yep.
um but
Yeah.
I
You can try to be empathetic, but it's, you know, that like,
right,
yeah.
like, but part of what I perceive is that as what I would think, just based on what I know about history here,
Mm-hmm.
is that there are many occasions in the past, particularly in the South, where when there are a whole lot of white people and one black person, there was a name for what was happening, and it was something very violent.
Yeah.
And that there were times where, when these ideas about other were so strong based on skin color and things like that, where when there would be like many white people that were more than likely indoctrinated
Yep.
to have some kind of ideas that were uh, original definition of racist
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in nature, that bad things would happen. And I think that there's some leftover kind of fear about that because we could, and I don't want to like get into a debate that's like a conversation or a debate that's too like political,
Mm-hmm.
but one thing that because yeah, I've never had that feeling. Like, I mean, I think I
Yeah.
told you before. Like, I think I told this story on the podcast at some point, but I'll tell an abridged version of it. I went on a date with a girl, and there was this little club that had opened up,
Mm-hmm.
and it was called Bronze, and it looked cool. And I was like, it seems like an interesting place. It had a nice little location. It's closed now, but I went in there, and I was like, cool. And I walked in, and you know, we sat at the bar, and there were a bunch of people there. And the owner was like, "Oh, hey, I haven't seen you here before." He was the bartender. He's like, "I own the place." I'm like, "Oh, cool, man. Yeah, this is our first time here."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh, well, here, your first round's on me, all right?" Like,
Oh, that's cool.
cool, thanks. Like, I was like, "This is a cool ass place.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is the owner guy's nice. Like, the decor is cool. Like, the bar top's awesome. These glasses are pretty. Like, this beer's delicious." Um, and it like didn't occur to me, but and it might just be us. It might just be you and I, because and maybe some other people, because we were at this place and the girl I was with looked at me and she said, I don't feel very comfortable here. And I kind of looked around and I was like,
Why? What's going
oh,
on?
I was like, and I just looked at her and I said, they're just black people.
Were you
And
two
I
like
took another sip of,
the only white people there,
yeah.
or like?
I took another sip of my beer, and that was that. And it was actually really cool. There was like an R&B show. There were like 4 guys that were like,
Oh, like live music?
They were like, do what?
Like live music?
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
That's cool.
It was
Yeah.
great. Like they were like the B version of Boys to Men or something
Okay.
like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were all really young, and like they were like just really like handsome, like well built, well dressed men.
Mhm.
And like they were singing songs and stuff. They were like going to like some of the tables where there were like women sitting and like flirting with them and stuff. And they were like eating it up. And I was like, this is fucking cool. Like this is a cool place.
I do love how like you're talking about their musical performance, and all I heard was handsome, well-built, well-dressed men. Nothing about the songs, nothing about the music, and all just good looking dudes going around from table to table. Like, are you sure they sang, or was this Chippendales? Like, what was going on there?
I think it may have been a ladies' club. Is that what they call it? Gentlemen, whatever. But well, no, I mean, I thought that the B version of Boys to Men was a good enough. Like, there were good vocal harmonies.
Gotcha.
And there were lots of drawn out like modulations and things, and the vocal solos. I mean, the music was good. I mean, and the instrumentation that, I mean, they just had a DJ playing stuff for them. Like, the instrumentation and like the arrangement was really cool. But it was just a thing that like I think that there might be some like Caucasian people that feel that way.
Yeah.
But I just don't, because it didn't really occur to me. Like I don't feel okay. So like let's say, regardless of anybody's like ethnicity, if I walk into a bar and there are 6 scary looking motherfuckers in like motorcycle club cuts, that doesn't scare me because I'm used to that. I'm used to people wearing cuts. But they have like lightning bolt tattoos on their necks if they're like skinheads or some shit. If they have like teardrop tattoos, like teardrop tattoos are a typical indication for most of the time. Regardless of like their ethnicity, like I'm gonna feel some kind of way. Like if I walk into a place and there's people wearing colors, like certain, like if I walk into a bar in LA and there's a bunch of dudes like all wearing red bandanas hanging out with each other, I'm gonna be like, oh, those guys are Bloods. We need to leave.
And
I'm not gonna.
There's more there than just like, oh, these people are a different skin tone than me. Yeah, there's
right, because like I walked in there, it was all a bunch of really well dressed people that all looked like they were out for a night on the town. Most of the people were buying drinks. I couldn't afford that at that time. I was like, these are just normal people from the fucking city, like having a good time. Like that to me, like that's the thing that, you know, like you get what I'm saying, right? Like, that's why I was comfortable there. Because there was nobody that seemed scary or threatening, you know?
But like you're saying, I think it's how people see the world. I think that if you see the world through this lens where race matters a lot, and that, you know, like like I don't know the person you were with, but that, you know, is that the type of person that maybe would go to a party and like if they saw another white person there and not a lot of others, be like, you know, that would be the person they would talk to and feel like they had some sort of common ground with because of that. But you know, it is interesting to me that I do think that it is the lens you see the world in. If you think that race is some sort of super important thing, you could feel some sort of uneasiness there because you assume that other people see the world the way you do, and you assume that they are looking at you as some sort of other because there's some sort of difference that you're perceiving there. Yeah. But I mean, you know, I'm not saying that they have any reason to feel that way. I'm just saying psychologically, I think I can understand maybe where that's coming from. But
yeah, and I don't know if this goes without saying, but there was not a second date. Like for me, that was just a deal breaker. I was like, if that's that big of a deal to you, like I don't want to date you. You know, like I don't want to see you. Like that's just a weird reaction to me, and that means that you're not. Because for me, it wasn't anything other than just you're clearly not that comfortable in your own skin or comfortable with the world that you live in.
Yeah,
Because
I can
like
feel that.
but it was weird because like it didn't really occur to me until like she said that, and I was like, why would you be uncomfortable? These are all like there was nothing but nice cars in the parking lot too. Like it was just a bunch of well-to-do normal ass people. Like I
Well,
don't
devil's advocate, I can understand one feeling of discomfort of do you feel like you're possibly like encroaching on someone else's space? For instance, like I've felt that same feeling being at a gay club where it's like, you know, I'm just here trying to have a good time, but it's like, am I somewhere where maybe I don't quote unquote belong, or somewhere where it's like, that may be a harsh way of saying that, but somewhere where it's like, you know, is my presence maybe not, I don't want to say welcomed, but almost like, you know, am I kind of like overstepping my bounds, or am I overstaying my welcome by being here? Like, you know, are there other bars or clubs that are meant more for me, and instead I'm here for some reason that maybe not be what, you know, I guess devil's advocate, I could kind of possibly see that maybe.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like sexual orientation, which, you know, I don't necessarily think is something you can for lack of a better term, you can help. I don't know that it really needs to be helped, but
Yeah.
There was a sign I saw in a gay club that I went to, and I used to go to gay clubs all the time. They're fun. Like
Yeah.
drag shows are a blast. Like, and I love how comfortable everybody at them is. Like everybody just seems to be 100% themselves, and I love that.
I love them
But
for
there
the
was a
opposite
sign.
reason why women love them. I love to go out and feel wanted for a night. I get to get hit on, like on it feels fucking great. I love it. Like, yeah, it's awesome. It's a big ego boost, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're tall. That's there you go. Sold.
That's all I got.
Someone wants to go home with you. Yeah. But there was a sign I saw at a club I went to one time that said, please understand that if you visit this establishment, that you are a guest of the gay community.
Yeah.
Please treat this experience as such.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought to myself like that, I'm not going to go into a gay club and get angry if a man hits on me.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, I'll talk to him for a little bit. I'll make sure he understands, like, yeah, hey man, I'm straight, but like I'm just
Yeah.
here to like hang out. And most of the time they're like, oh, like, and a lot of the time they'll be like, oh, well, it's cool you're here.
Yeah. I've had that same interaction. It's been friendly, and they'll even like buy me a drink. You know, it's like, I mean, yeah, I'm not trying to hit on you, but yeah, like, and then yeah, then you go home with them and you have a great time, and it's like, it's a lot of fun. But
Wait, what?
Huh?
That's like that scene in Borat in the first movie. But yeah, but I mean, I understand where you're coming from. It makes sense. It's kind of like, is this a place? But I think that
that would be awkward to see that sign. This establishment is like, understand you are here as a guest of the black community. You know, like, what if you saw that sign at that bar? That would be kind of strange, but
yeah, and you know, and I think that as time goes on, because the way that I see it is that we're at a point now, and like, okay, by the way, I fucking hate the term post-racial. That doesn't even make sense. When people say that, like somehow we're in an era now where that has ended. No, people still perceive that as a thing. People still define it. People still talk about it. It still exists. But
you've got some people like Jesse Lee Peterson who will argue that racism never existed in America, which there's some people that go, yes. Let's not get derailed into that. But I saw that recently that it was like, really, that is an interesting argument. Let's see you stand behind that. But yeah, I agree. I kind of hate that term post-racial, as if like we've moved beyond racism at this point.
I think that when it comes to the gay community versus, you know, Black Americans, that we are much further along, I think, on the sort of cultural change, that I don't feel like I think of the word, and this is actually sort of a cool definition, are quote colorblind, that when they say that, meaning that they just pretend they don't see race, that's bullshit. But if you colorblind in that you know that it's something that's there, you understand it might create a bias, but you choose to be conscious that it might. And if you find yourself allowing that bias to influence you, you push yourself back the other direction. But it requires a lot of self-awareness, a lot of thinking. That I think that for me, I've put so much of an effort into trying to mitigate the consequences or the effects of types of biases that I've gotten good at it to the point where sometimes I don't have to try.
Okay.
And there's a lot of occasions where I think that I think more people have an us and them mentality when it comes to straight people and gay people.
Probably.
And I
Yeah.
think that generally it's not accepted really because a lot of people believe that it's a choice.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
I was about to. I don't think
they
there's
think
anyone in America that thinks being black is a choice. Like,
right. Yeah. It's like, and even though for me, I haven't seen a whole lot of indications in most situations that being gay is a choice, but that's neither here nor there. But I think that we're at a point where I don't feel like I should feel as if I'm intruding.
yeah.
Now, for instance, in a city at the beach near us, there's a Black Bike Week where it's a motorcycle weekend. Now, if I went to that, yes, I would be because it's specifically labeled as such, you know? Or like, you know, if there was like a African American Business Owners Club,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. That would be obviously encroaching because it's labeled as such.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know, so like I wouldn't feel comfortable being there. And maybe when a club is labeled as a gay club, you know, maybe that's an indication that. But in most cases, like I've actually found that you're very welcomed when you come in.
I agree.
Because for a lot of people there, they just view you as someone who's different but doesn't care and like doesn't think that there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And it's cool, like, you know, the kind of barriers you can sort of break down between yourself and other people when they realize that you're just willing to accept them for who they are. And not only that, you'll go to a place where there's many other people who are like them and be comfortable. So yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know that like in that specific situation, I don't know that the analogy applies. But
I agree. Yeah.
and the other ones that I just mentioned, it definitely does, you know, like that would be intruding for sure.
When you just said that there, I know now that you said the barriers you can break down, but I really heard the bears you could break down at a gay club. And I was like, I didn't know how many bears you were in there breaking down, but man, I'm impressed.
You went to one where there's bears? Like I've been going to the wrong places my whole life.
No, you know the term bear in the gay community, right? There's the
large hairy man.
Yeah, usually, yeah. So yeah, you've been going to clubs just breaking down bears left and right, man.
I can't believe sorry. I know several of the sub stereotypes that exist. So many of them are kind of funny. Yeah. So I'm wondering with the film in particular, was there a point where you realized Rose was in on it? And where was it? Because I know you're the guy that's trying to figure it out.
Honestly, okay, so as we talked about, I did see this once years ago when it was new. I'm trying to remember my first watch because this time I did remember that much, that eventually it was going to come out that Rose was part of it. So this watch, I was ready and anticipating that the entire time. I don't remember on my first watch having any suspicion until he found the box of photos with all of the previous black boyfriends and the girlfriend and everything. Like I think that to me was a twist that came out of nowhere. And I was like, oh shit. Like, was there a moment that you kind of had a suspicion earlier? Or?
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes here. The indication, I guess, is the bullet point says, yep, ... It's an auction. A silent one.
Yeah, the bingo scene.
Immediately, the next bullet point says, "Is Rose in on this?"
I guess
when she started doing that sort of weird, like, "Oh, you won't leave without me, really?" And she like turns her back on him. I was like, "This seems like manipulation."
Yeah, and she was really relieved that he. Yeah, well, and then also, I guess I should have put it together at that point because why is he? They have all of this set up. Everyone is ready. There's a big portrait of him. It's an auction. Everyone, like, there's a lot of preparation that went into that. It was not just like off the cuff. so he was brought there on purpose by Rose. That I feel like that should have been enough for me to put that together, that it was like, oh, I don't think this was happenstance that Rose brings her boyfriend and they just decide to do this. It has to be that Rose brings a boyfriend that this is planned for. But yeah, I guess I was just too into the what was going on to really like step back and think of the logic of that. Yeah.
And I think that it was on purpose that they were trying to make sort of an allusion to early American slavery.
Yes.
I think there was no getting around the fact that even though this is not exactly the situation, that there was something similar.
Yep.
But it's strange to me because the idea that they have, that you can see that when Dean is talking about what's his name? Hold on, I'll find it. Jesse Owen, the runner.
Yeah, yep.
When he's talking about Hitler and the whole Aryan race bullshit, you can tell he fervently believes that Hitler was full of shit.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird thing where it's like, I want to be you. I want to inhabit your body because I have an admiration for certain traits about you.
And when they break it down with even some of the party guests, like they are, one of the dude, it was just literally because what black is in style right now. You know what I mean? Like some of them, yeah, there were traits as far as, Jeremy being interested in genetic predisposition to being strong or something like that. And then, yeah, then there was that one dude who was like, no, it's just, apparently it's cool to be black right now. That would be awesome. Like it's weird. Yeah. They did a great job of making this such a strange, like interesting watch. Yeah.
Yeah, and the people are so fucking weird too. The one thing that I did do to kind of gather a little bit of perspective was I asked my girlfriend, who is black, a bit about her thoughts on this, and she said that what she got from it was the idea that there were certain things about individuals whose lineage kind of went back to the African continent indigenously, that there were certain traits, physical traits, that were like sort of made fun of. Like she said, like having somewhat larger lips, or she mentioned from her experience having a rounder buttocks, I guess. And a few things like related to that also the hair that people that can trace their lineage back to the African continent have some more like curly hair that's also thicker, which, by the way, there's like many different like types of hair that a lot of like European type people don't notice, that I've become more aware of since I've been dating her. And you can see that there was sort of this weird like European look that a lot of black women like would do with their hair for a while.
Trying to straighten, a lot of times having lighter tones too, a red or almost blondish too. Yeah,
and like relaxing and things like that. But then the thing that she mentioned to me when we were talking about this is that now a lot of those things are desirable. And do you remember when a lot of young women were like injuring their lips, trying to make them look larger by using like suction?
Yeah.
An old friend of mine she is Puerto Rican, Native American, and black. We kind of dated for a while, and we were friends for a long time after. I haven't talked to her in years. But I remember when I had a Facebook, she posted something on there. She said, I remember when I was a little girl that people used to make fun of my lips, and now everybody wants theirs to look like mine. And so the thing that she was saying to me, like, that this is not my old friend, this is my current partner. What she was saying to me is she thought what she got from the film was that a lot of these things that were thought of as like made fun of or thought of as being weird are now like thought of as somehow being desirable. And so she kind of related it to that in some way, and we didn't talk very long about it. I mean, but that was one of the major things she got from the film. That
is really interesting though, because honestly, like I kind of wished we had someone else on this episode, because it's like, this movie, I almost hate like two dudes that are very white, or one white dude and one half white dude talking about race. You know, it's like it would be really interesting to have someone else's perspective. So it is cool to hear like actually like some of her thoughts about it. But yeah, it honestly, like, it makes me, not that I feel like, oh man, I know what it's like to be black, but like I understand a small a very, very diluted version of that same feeling, where it was like when I was a kid, I was made fun of for being super into comic books, and now Marvel movies are like the biggest fucking thing, you know. So it's like now that's not something that was like I was born with. That was something I chose. So it's a very different feeling, but I understand at least the flavor of that. Like, yeah, hold on, why is this was something years ago that was ridiculed, and now all of a sudden it's in style, and like, why does that change, and why is that now like society just decides that this is now something that's going to be desirable, or it's cool or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like you can even see like, and I've had this conversation with a few of my friends who are. I have a good friend who's been on here, Sarah. Actually,
Yeah.
you've talked to her. She's been on
Yep.
the podcast before, and we were talking at one point about. So she's a little shapely. She's got curves, I guess you would say. And she and I were having a conversation one time about how in like the 70s, if you look at the jeans that women were wearing that were high waisted with the sort of strangely shaped pockets,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
they were intended to make your buttocks look smaller.
Oh, interesting.
Because that was supposed to be like attractive at the time.
At the time, you didn't want a big butt. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I might be mistaken about the decade in particular, but it's the same sort of thing. Now it's like, you know, what's the word? I actually don't like it. Breeding material. Have you heard this before?
No, but I can, I guess I can picture what you're talking about though.
It's supposed to mean, I guess, like from what I've had described to me, because Sarah actually has been called this a few times. She said it's apparently the implication that you have a body that looks as if it is well adapted for carrying children. So I guess like wider hips, maybe, and maybe a couple other traits.
Well, that is,
I don't like
I
that
think,
term.
I don't need. I think we've talked about it in the past. It's like, do you remember that old Louis C.K. bit where he was talking about how like a lot of like the sexual urges you feel is almost being a biological trick, where it's like, yeah, like young men like being attracted to either like breasts or hips and stuff. It's like it really is biology saying like, yeah, she could give me so many babies. It's like you don't think of it consciously as that way, but that is really like, it's just your body is trying to propagate the spirit, like make more humans. That's what it's trying to do.
It's like. Yeah, it's like when you have sex with somebody, the implication from like a biological standpoint is that your body and your genes are convinced that this person is appropriate. You know, I'm using that. I mean, the genes is being sentient. I'm using that, commonly, but that they're convinced that this is the person that would be appropriate for you to like have children with. You know, and that's something that's like it's always underneath there. We fail to realize it, and there's just and. But that's a general thing, really, like that, it being less attractive apparently culturally for women to have like large butts. And now all of a sudden everybody's into it and everyone's into like, quote, curves and whatnot, which is good. I mean, like, because the way that I see it is that like, I don't have a type. I'm only talking about women here because that's what I'm attracted to. That's who I date. I mean, I'm not saying there's not some Chris Pratts out there, but I don't want to put my hands on you.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Sorry,
we'll get to Movie Crush later. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. But like I just really like women. I just enjoy women, not like in a weird like objectifying way. Do I say that? But I'm attracted to women, and I have liked many different personalities. I've liked many different body types and features. There's no like specific mold that I say this is what I like. It's like if I meet someone and I'm attracted to them, then I just am. And then maybe I can try, and I have before, like actually thought maybe I can try to figure out what is it that I'm attracted to about this person.
Well, yeah, I think we even talked about it in the episode about attraction last year. We were trying to like kind of pinpoint. It was like, yeah, what is it like? We got into a conversation where I was like looking at even like spacing of eyes and things like that. It's like, is there subtle like symmetries that we're attracted to or stuff like that? Yeah, it's interesting.
I feel so stupid saying this, but there is an X factor there.
I think there is.
I think that term's really ridiculous, but I can't think of anything else to call it. So
I don't think you could I don't think you could write it to a program basically. Like, yeah, I think there is like a variable that is not calculable in that equation. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a little problem I have.
With the movie?
One part of the end.
Okay, yes. I have a big problem. I wonder if it's the same one. Okay.
Okay, how did he get the cotton in his ears?
Okay, that's a good one. I wondered that too. Okay, they showed him reaching and biting at the straps, but they cut. I'm wondering if he was able to actually, with his mouth, undo the strap, and however, doesn't answer how he was able to redo the straps.
Right.
Yep. If it, like, I feel like they should have shown us when Jeremy was coming in there that one of the straps was undone and he was, masking it with his arm being over it or something like that would have just made that make more sense. But yes, that is one of the problems I have. That is not the big one though, but I am glad you brought that one up. But yeah, it did not make sense to me.
What's yours? I feel like I'm going to feel really unobservant for not noticing it.
Well, no, you definitely notice it because it's a plot point of the movie. I just think I don't understand how they came up with this big, brilliant plan that has all of this legwork in it. They even brand it, Behold the Coagula. They have an intro video. They have all this stuff that they've done. And they didn't notice that fucking flash photography was the Achilles heel of this entire thing. That if the person just, a flat, all of a sudden it just takes it away. So that to me, I think is just kind of silly. However, the really stupid thing is earlier in the movie, it is shown to us and Chris learns it. When Chris takes a picture of Logan / whatever, I forget what his real name actually was. Shit. But when he takes a picture of him, dude, the spell breaks for a second. He's no longer hypnotized and even tells him get out and everything. He says the name of the movie. It's a big, noticeable moment. Chris learns from that, hey, photography, kind of takes away the hypnotism for a minute. No one else at that party seems to pick up on that. Chris is the only one that learns from that moment, and everyone else is just that to me I thought was stupid. However, I'm now wondering, after letting that mull over in my mind, was that intended by Peele to show some of the almost stupid arrogance that people in power sometimes have? Where they kind of can just overlook some sort of little thing that maybe someone else is able to figure out. And they have this, they think they've got everything figured out. They think they have some sort of perfect plan and they're not paying attention to some sort of detail and learning something about. I'm wondering if it was purposeful. It seemed like an overlook whenever I was first watching it, but yeah, it did seem kind of weird that it was how would you not realize that there's something as easy as a flash that everyone has in their pocket is going to literally take someone out of your hypnotic spell for a few minutes?
Yeah, you can see a little bit of arrogance in the video, how I don't remember his name, but the Armitage
Roman was
patriarch, Roman, how he sort of marvels at his own brilliance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of arrogance involved in that, be it because of power or because of overestimating your own ingenuity or your own brilliance,
or underestimating the other.
Right. There's clearly some kind of arrogance there. That is a fair point, because he even uses it at the end of the movie with Walter.
Exactly. And then that was my whole point, is Rose hands Walter the gun after Walter was obviously just flashed by that. So she did not pick up on what happened earlier with Logan, obviously. It is just I wonder if are the characters just supposed to be that arrogant that they just didn't get it? Or was it just kind of overlooked? But
there's one part in the movie that actually the thing that Jeremy said about with your genetic makeup or whatever, the MMA remark, there's a part in the film that actually bothered me more than that.
What was that?
It was kind of humorous, but in this way that was just, it just rubbed me so wrong. When Rose is at the end of the film, well, it's the fact that, there's a couple things that bother me. The least of which is she's eating fucking Fruit Loops out of a bowl with her hands and then slurping down water, milk with a straw.
I loved
Yeah,
that.
that's just fucking weird to me. Like, and
Especially
then
the acting of how she does like the 3 small little sips after eating one Cheerio.
yeah,
It's so like irritating. I loved it. I thought that was a great little job.
she's listening to, what is it she's listening to? It's an 80s song, isn't it?
Yeah, I forget what it was, but yeah.
Is it like, this is just like, what I would be doing if I was like, on a scrolling through like, I don't know, bicycle parts at night, like, just bored in my bed.
Mhm.
It's the fact that what she's doing is looking up NCAA prospects.
Yeah.
That rubbed me so much worse than Jeremy saying the thing that he said.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's kind of funny in a way, but it's also like, it was just really bothersome to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the big
That's
part
the
of it
only,
is it's commodifying people. It is like, and that's,
yeah,
it's looking at people like this resource that you own and can trade and can go out and bring to your face. Yeah, it's a very like, yeah, dark, weird thing.
it's the only part of my notes where I actually wrote out WTF.
Mine, I sent you a text. Mine, I think this might be the most WTFs I have in my notes. Yeah.
And it was funny because when I wrote WTF at the end of that, I just typed it out because it's what I was thinking. And I kind of looked over. I was like, I don't think I have any of those. And Ty said he had shitloads. I think I thought many of them. I just didn't write them down.
I definitely had quite a few. The Georgina, a lot of them were after Georgina scenes. Yeah, like in the first, I was like, the first time we meet Georgina, I was like, what the fuck is up with Georgina? And then after the cell phone, I was like, what the fuck is Georgina doing with the cell phone? Like, there's just a lot of them that's like, I loved the way that she acted that though. That scene of when he says to her, sometimes I just get nervous when there's a lot of white people around, and the pain in the actress's eyes when she cries and smiles, that was acted so masterfully. I loved that.
Yeah, that's an almost impossible like scene to do, and the fact that she did it. On the subject of Georgina, the scene where she's like looking out the window, but we don't recognize yet that she's just looking at her reflection.
Yeah.
And then Walter runs at Chris.
Yeah.
At the beginning of that scene, is one of her eyes offset?
Yes, I noticed that, and I don't know if that was actually. I don't know if the actress actually has a lazy eye, and it's just not noticeable in a lot of the camera angles in the movie, or if it's. I'm not really sure, but I did actually notice that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird. I wondered if it was on purpose or not, or because it seemed like after she sort of like rubbed her hand over her hair a couple times to move it, that her eye like actually like aligned again. I don't know, it was just weird. But the way that they did those roles, it was like creepy. It was like, how do I act like someone that grew up in another time than me? It's like,
it's also like some of the stuff they did is just kind of like, even once you learn the story and the plot of what was going on doesn't really make sense. Like, why was Walter out just sprinting directly at him other than to freak him out? Like, okay, I guess I could understand, you were an old man and now you are in a much younger body and you want to make use of, but sprinting directly at someone in the middle of the night like that, it's like, it seems like it is literally just designed to be a horror movie moment. It's like if you were to step away from this being a moment or a movie and that was just Chris outside of that house in a real situation going on, like what would be the purpose of I forget who was playing, that's Roman at that point. What would be the purpose of Roman doing that? Like what was he going for? I don't get it.
yeah, he was practicing running a post route in football.
Well, no,
that's the only reason why anybody would run that fast and immediately cut like that. Or
it does make sense that Roman was, the runner that almost like, he's practicing his running. Like he's like, he now has a body that can run way faster than he could as an old man. But I still don't get running directly at Chris unless you were trying to make some sort of point.
Because I don't know any kind of actual running event where you would need to cut 90 degrees like that.
I don't either. I definitely in my notes though, I do have that frucked me out. That definitely frucked me out.
I don't think I have anything else in here I wanted to mention. I do want to talk about the end. Did you see the alternate ending?
No, I haven't. I didn't know there was an alternate ending. I need to check that out now. Oh shit.
Did you watch this? What platform did you watch this on?
Prime. Amazon Prime.
if you go toward the end of the credits, there's a
Ooh.
whole like area where they take the director's commentary portion. And is it the director? Yeah, he wrote and directed it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Jordan's doing the director's commentary, but they take the special features commentary and they just do the alternate ending.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to rewatch that. There, that's awesome. Okay.
Do you want me to tell you what the alternate ending
Sure.
was?
Yeah, yeah. Go for it. Yeah, I'm down.
So we see the ending that happens, where but well, okay. I guess before we talk about the alternate, can we talk about
Yeah,
the
yeah. Let's talk about the
theatrical one?
actual ending first. Yeah, yeah.
So I think that we're probably thinking the same thing about this scene. Yes, he's over there. He's about to kill Rose. The audience wants Rose to be dead.
Yeah.
And then the we see what we think is a cop show up.
Yeah.
And I wonder. I know we probably thought the same thing, but I'm wondering why we thought that. Is it that so often it seems to occur that police tend to be biased against particularly black males? Or is it that I have been indoctrinated to believe that is what always happens?
Mm.
Because there's might be situations where there may be a police officer that's not allowing their biases to affect them in the way that they do their job. And I thought it was going to be the same cop that asked for his license.
Oh yeah, yeah. That would have been
That's what I was
interesting.
expecting. And then it turns out that it's Rod. And also, seriously, hats off to was it Lil Rel Howery?
Yeah.
Hats off to him.
Yep.
Because he offered this interesting levity where the comic relief character also makes the most sense, even though it seems crazy.
Yes. Yep.
I thought that was great.
Oh shit!
But then the fact
did you know that he's going to be in Free Guy?
What?
Yeah, Lil Red Howery is I pulled up his IMDb page right now, and he's in Free Guy. Yep, I'm excited about that. Oh yeah.
Oh,
plays a character named Buddy apparently. Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, I've enjoyed pretty much everything I've seen him in. He played like a little tiny role in the Little Sneakerheads miniseries on Netflix that I thought was really funny.
Okay.
But it's like I wonder, like, because I know that things like that happen. I know that police will treat people differently based on any number of things. And I don't know if it's generally true, but the reason why I believe that police would do that is because people do that on occasions.
Yeah, and police are people.
Treat other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, yeah, we don't say police as if it's like some sort of entity outside. It's humans. It is just humans wearing a certain outfit, assigned a certain job, making decisions and doing things. And humans make mistakes. Right. Like, yeah.
And if the sample group is fucking everybody in the U.S., well, if you look at that sample group, it's very common for people to treat people differently based on whatever biases they have, in this case, based on race, but in any other way possible. Like, a cop's going to treat a white kid in jeans and a t-shirt differently than a white kid in jeans and a t-shirt holding a skateboard.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think a big part of it too comes to wealth. I think race is a big divider, but also classes, and I think that at the end too, it's like, yes, I think that moment is constructed to give you that feeling. I do think that was purposely done by the creators to do that. I also, though, I think that it makes complete sense that even taking race out of that, even if both characters were white, you've got here's the super affluent rich house. The cop shows up to that person's home more often than not. I think they're gonna probably side with the homeowners until all the detective work is done and everything. It's just, I think that's normally how things happen. Like, you've got the homeowners of a wealthy company a wealthy family that has probably interacted with the police a lot in that area, and then one person that's a guest at the home and is completely unknown to them. The reality of the situation is, they are going to treat them totally differently.
Yeah, it reminds me when I was in high school, I had a couple of buddies that were they did like freestyle rap. You actually knew both of them. I won't mention their names because I know one of them is paranoid, so I don't want to disclose his name.
Okay.
But when we were kids, like some neighbor that one of them knew said that he had a studio and that he was going to help them like record an album or whatever. And I went there with them and another friend of theirs. The three of them were all black, and I was like the white guy, I guess. And it's funny because when they were talking about like the rap thing that they were trying to do and like making beats and who wrote and who rapped and all this, and then in the midst of this grown man with a couple of teenage boys points at me and says, well, what's he do? And they were like, oh, he's the white guy. And the guy was like, oh, it's good to keep one of them around in case you need someone to talk to the cops. And I was like, what? Is that a thing? Like,
you're the cop liaison.
I don't understand. Yeah, and that's like something that
it's
I mean,
I hate that it's like I laugh about that because it is funny, but it's like it's not funny because it's sad that is a fucking reality of like where we live. It's like, or like the society we live in, that it's like, yeah, like literally like because of situations like either wealth, like race, things like that, it's like, yeah, you need to make sure you have someone around you to interact with the cops because you're scared of them. Like that's sad. That sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that was like like about just shy of like 20 years ago, but it's still like there's still people that feel that way, and in some ways it's not necessarily a misplaced feeling. But it's just like there's stuff that I didn't really understand. Like at that point in time, I wasn't really sure what he meant and why that was somehow relevant.
Yeah.
There was another occasion in which the two of us, me and one of the guys I was with, we actually got pulled over. I was driving, and he was like, "Oh, what are you two boys doing? Driving around out here at night?" And he kind of made the implication that like it was like a drug deal.
Yeah, you're doing something wrong. Like, yeah.
Right. The only way that a white kid and a black kid could be hanging out is if one of them was buying drugs from the other. It's like there's no way you could be friends. And like I was young and I didn't understand, so I let him like search my whole fucking car, and like he like frisked both of us, and we were both like, that was back when like baggy pants were in style. So we were both wearing like pretty baggy clothing, and getting frisked when you're wearing baggy clothing is fucking weird. It's very awkward, and like I don't know, it just pissed me off. And to me, it was a thing I'd never had to deal with before. And I was like, does this kind of shit happen? And he was like, bro, like
every time, probably.
Yes.
Yep.
And I was like, well, fuck, I hope we never get pulled over again. He's like, yeah, me too. And I don't even know why we got pulled over. I think maybe like the lens of my taillight was cracked or some shit. It was a stupid fucking reason.
Yeah. Which I do. I mean, I think you touched on it earlier too, where it's like it's not always just race. I do think race has a lot to do with it, unfortunately. But like you talked about with just a kid wearing jeans and a t-shirt versus a kid wearing jeans and a t-shirt holding a skateboard. Being a skateboard kid, having a lot of tattoos and shit like that, I've had to deal with just certain prejudices when I interact with a cop. There is a certain, until I talk with them for a little bit, it seems like they expect a certain attitude or something from me based on either how I look or something like that it is. And I have to recognize that it's like, okay, it's skin color, but I fucking chose this, like it's, they may be, judging me based on the color of my arm, but it's like ink that I chose to put in there, not something that I was born with, where then someone is assuming that they know something about me just simply based on something that I was born with. Like,
yeah, I mean, prejudice is prejudice, like regardless of what it's about. And some types are more unfortunate than others. And I think some types rank higher on the scale of like moral or ethical,
yeah,
kind of, what's the word, faux pas or violations than others. But I mean, it's yeah, and and in no way like any of the stuff that the two of us are talking about right now is we're not in any way saying that we understand, like truly, but we have analogous experiences that can at least help us a little bit with a proper description from someone that's felt these things as a black person, that maybe it makes it a little bit easier for us to understand, but we still don't have the personal experience.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I'm able
Yeah.
to like understand one like to a much smaller magnitude. You know, I feel like that it's like yeah, at some like some exponential level of what I've felt is probably you know what other people are feeling. But it's like at least the kernel of like that that sort like at least I understand that it's like yeah.
A modicum. I
Exactly.
love that
Yes.
word.
Yeah, that is a great. That's an SAT word right there. Hell yeah.
It's one of my
There is
favorites.
one more
So
part of the notes that I wanted to talk about. The fucking
yeah, go
hypnosis
ahead.
scene. How cool was that
Oh,
edited and put together
bro.
and shit? Like that, I thought that was fucking awesome.
Like the next time I see one of those like grandma style teacups, like I'm just never gonna look at them the same way again. Like I already didn't really drink tea, but like I have an aversion to it now. Like and the sound
Yeah,
of a spoon, like every time I hear that now, and it's like I almost feel like they used that specifically so it would do that to you.
I'm sure. Yep. Yep.
Like that he wanted to leave a lasting like sort of thing where you'll remember this film because of that sound, which is very common. You
Yep.
know, the
I
sound
think
of a
so. Yep.
stainless steel spoon, ceramic. That was, yeah, I agree. The way that they filmed it, the subtle nuance in the first scene that there were little flecks of sugar on the back of the spoon.
Yeah. I noticed that. Yep. Like just little tiny details like that. Yep. I thought
Yeah,
something else that was
and
really, really cool about that, talking about the sound design, when she tells him sink into the floor, just the sound editing on that now sink. Like that, like there's just a lot that was done really well in
yeah,
that scene. It was super fucking cool.
and that like at that point in time you recognize that there's something somewhat sinister,
Yep.
and also that brings me to the other thing. I fucking hate the was it a dream device. I hate
Yeah.
that so much.
Yep.
And they did that and I was like, really,
Yep.
you guys did that? Fuck.
I agree
um
because that it's over. I can understand in this situation that would be realistic. I mean, if if you woke up the next morning, you would be like, hold on, did that really happen last night? Like, I mean, I've never been hypnotized, but I assume that you would have some sort of brain fog too. Like, you'd be waking up like probably out of it, not really understanding what was going on. But I do completely agree though that it is like you could have probably found a better plot device there, done something a little different.
I mean, and like what you're saying, like where it is hypnosis, that maybe that is the only way they could do it. But I really do feel like for the sake of the movie, stuff doesn't always have to make perfect sense. Like if that's the
Yeah.
only thing that's realistic, I get it. But for me at least, I don't like the was it a dream thing. The only film that I've ever been okay with that in is Vanilla Sky. Spoilers, sorry.
I guess
If you haven't seen Vanilla Sky.
like you're saying, yeah. What is the point of that in the movie? Why would he not like? I'm kind of forgetting the pacing. Was it needed that? Yeah, no. He needed to for the next few scenes not be under the impression that something sinister was going on, right? Because he was like, I think your mom
Yeah,
hypnotized me last night. Like he couldn't be 100% sure of it, or else he would have wanted to be like out of there basically right away, right? Or
yeah. So okay, Jordan
actually,
Peele.
no, he
Not,
didn't. No,
wait.
because even when he was talking to Rod later, he was saying like, "Yo, her mom hypnotized me, but it worked." I'm curious, like he was coming to terms with the fact that he was
Oh
hypnotized and
yeah,
that scene was real, and he was still willing to stay there. He was like, "Yeah, it was fucked up, but it worked, and I know I don't want to smoke anymore." And then that's when Rod was even like, "Man, I wouldn't let someone fuck around in my head." But yeah, so like
yeah.
I don't think it was
Right.
necessary at all. He could have just woke up, understood that she hypnotized him, and gone on from there. Yeah.
That really wasn't necessary. Yeah, you're right. Because he just thought that it was done with the best intentions.
Yep. Yeah, even though
He
it was
didn't need no
dark, yeah.
sinister. Yeah. Um.
Hmm.
So, but man, yeah. I feel like you'd write a good screenplay, man. I really do. Just don't do an adaptation. That would be bad. So the alternate ending. What
Yeah,
the
yeah.
alternate ending is, and I can tell you a little bit about what Jordan Peele said in the commentary. So what happens is he
So where does it pick up at it? Like where does it diverge from the main movie?
so I think okay, I don't remember if Rose is dead or not, but it's right around the time where he like grabs her by the throat.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if I can't remember if he actually does it or not. I think Jordan actually mentions it. I think that I think she's actually dead at this point.
Hmm.
And I think the camera was like, he's standing next to her body, like a few feet away. Then a car pulls up and two white cops come out. And then I cannot remember. I don't even think it shows them apprehending him. It might.
Hmm.
And then it kind of goes to like a scene of him. You see Rod kind of walking into a prison like visit area and like the little plastic thing, the phone things. And Chris is on the other side, and you don't hear the dialogue, but Jordan says that what he's trying to do there, and this is the reason why I mentioned the whole post-race thing,
Yeah.
is because Jordan said that what he was trying to do there was to show that this whole post-race thing is bullshit, that we don't live in some place where race no longer exists and no one cares, that there's always a little bit of this racism kind of, I think he said, quote, simmering beneath the surface. And that he was trying to illustrate that the powerful and the rich will always have an advantage, like over the less fortunate, the disadvantage, that, like a rich white family is going to have an advantage. The legal system will be in favor of them over the, young black man. And I'm just saying what Jordan said.
Yeah.
One of the things he mentioned was that there's, a lot of black men that are wrongfully imprisoned, and it just makes Chris one of them. And in the conversation, Rod, who's been fighting for him for months, I think it's supposed to be 6 months at this point, Chris basically just tells him, give up, man, that's a lost cause, saying like, there's no way you're ever going to get me out of here, and that's it. And another point that Jordan made was that he said it was really unfortunate because they both acted the scene incredibly well.
Yeah. That's an interesting ending. I like that idea. Yeah. I do really like how it left it. I want to know, so in your opinion, Rose was like still alive at the end, right? Did she?
I hope not. I mean, she seemed like she had a little bit left, but I believe she was shot in the gut. Yeah. So it's unlikely that she lived later, but I'm pretty sure she's still alive at that point.
That's what I mean, though. Not that like she's going to come back in the sequel, like Get Out 2, Rose returns. But no, but I think that it was supposed to echo his mother dying alone and cold, bleeding out on the road. I like that that he didn't make sure she was dead, that they drove away and all you see is Rose still alive, bleeding out on the road.
So to completely ruin your interpretation of the film, which I hate when creators do, Jordan Peele said that him going back for Georgina was supposed to be him beating his demons.
Okay.
That somehow going back for him meant that his inner beast had, like, the demon he'd been fighting was now gone. Because even though he basically saved a old white lady who really loved her house in a black woman's body, that it was like him doing it. But that is with that, but the thing is the commentary I saw, he didn't have the opportunity to really talk about, if there was any symbolism there. So that still might have been meant by the creators. But yeah, I mean, it is possible that like dying alone thing, like that may have been something that was intended or not. Maybe, I don't know. It's possible.
I would think so. Like just in the way that earlier, I like how earlier in the movie, it is like when you hear Chris talking about realizing that his mother went through that, it is a like very painful thing. It's like, shit, you do not want to picture anyone going through that unless there's someone you really don't like and you really want to see them get what's coming to them, like Rose. It's like that's where it's like at the end, is it supposed to be a little bit of satisfaction that that it's like, oh, this miserable way that his mom died, she's now going to suffer that same fate. Like,
and the reason why Jordan said that they didn't do that ending after they filmed it was because I forget what he said was happening, but there are some things happening in like current events when the film came out.
Oh, okay.
And he said that we didn't need a martyr, we needed a hero. And that what he was going to be was a martyr, that he shut down this terrible thing that happened to these people, that, to stop them from doing it again. But then he ended up in prison probably for the rest of his life. And that the idea was that Jordan said we needed a hero in Chris, not a martyr, because he wanted to give people some kind of hope at the end of the film because of current events. I do not remember which one it was that he talked about specifically, but yes,
that's a good point.
Go back and get to the very end, and like right around the end of the credits, you'll see that version. And they might roll the rest of the credits after that. I can't remember, but it's cool.
I'm gonna have to watch that. That's interesting. Huh? Are you ready for Movie Crush?
Yes.
I am so excited for Movie Crush. Okay, so we did talk about it. I am enforcing, at least for myself, I am enforcing Movie Crush is about the character, not the actor. Because I think that I can go down a rabbit hole of this just being like, hey, what actors do I find attractive? You know, and we're more trying to like, in my mind, I guess, crush is like, has a lot to do more with personality than someone's appearance a lot of the times. For me, at least for me. So I'm more like taking it as like the character in the movie that I have a quote unquote crush on. Which to me, I guess also in all fairness, crush is not necessarily like a romantic thing for me. I can have like guy crushes all the time that it's like a crush is just like someone that I want to like, someone that I'd want to hang around, I guess. Like that kind of like, to me, like I've had like, guy crushes where it's like, dude, this dude seems really cool. I would like to spend some time with them. So with that being said, my crush, which I would argue is the only right answer, is obviously Rod. Best character in the fucking movie. Oh my God, yes. Rod was the man. As far as I could think, like characters in this movie, if I'm defining crush as someone that I would want to hang around, Rod's it. Chris was cool and all, but Chris is like pretty chill. Like I would probably have a fun time chilling around Chris, but I would not have the night that I would have with Rod. It'd be full of laughs. It would be like, imagine sitting down and having a few beers with Rod. Would that not be an amazing fucking time?
Yeah, he seems like he'd be a fun guy to hang out with. He could tell you weird TSA stories.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So okay, what about you? Who's your movie crush? So
this is the thing about this one is that what I did was I went with my first impression.
Okay.
And that impression carried through most of the film, and then that was kind of ruined at the end. And you know what? To me, this seems like a reasonable answer because there are many people that I was attracted to begin with, and I did have a crush on them, and I got to know them and realized you really fucking suck.
That's fair.
So I'm going to go kind of with more the actor here than the character, but Allison Williams as Rose. And the thing is that a lot of this has more to do with the casting decision than the character, because there are not very many other people that would have been able to play that role the way that she did and convince you so much based on, because she's got her smile's perfect.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
like that's the most perfect smile I've probably ever seen in my life. Girlfriend, if you're watching, I'm very sorry. Your smile's great. But like for this role, that like the way that like her teeth look, the proportions, like the way her mouth kind of curls up on the sides, that's all you do is you look at that big smile and you're fucking fooled.
Dude, her absolute dead-faced emotional conversation with Rod, where she was like sitting there pretending to cry while making like that was acted so well. It was great.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's where you realize the degree of manipulation involved. Yeah. And for me, it's more the fact that because of her physical appearance and demeanor and the way that she was able to kind of act in that way, it made her, in my opinion, maybe the only appropriate cast for that role in the movie. So a little bit of it, it's kind of the actor a little bit, but it's also the first impression of the character. Because to begin with, Rose is super charming.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I would date you, and then you find out that she's an emotionless monster.
Yeah.
So, and I feel bad because I basically have a crush on the biggest villain in the film, arguably.
Pretty much, yeah.
But
I guess I don't know. I mean, there is probably part of like, was Rose manipulated into being that, like she was literally born into this after, so like not to like try to like explain away the villain's actions, but I do think a lot of people are victims of circumstance. It's not like she was part of putting together this whole plan. She was Roman had already by the time she was born, I think this whole plan was already underway. But
yeah, I mean, I think that there's a certain point that people get to where perhaps what they were indoctrinated to think that they can sort of think for themselves, maybe. Yeah. But I don't know how like masterfully she was taught the things that she was by the people that, quote, raised her, as her parents.
Yeah.
So I promise that there will be no controversy about my favorite line, though.
Okay. I doubt we picked the same one.
I'm positive we didn't.
Yeah, I doubt we did. I'm gonna let you go first. I'll do the last one. Why did you pick your
Okay.
favorite line?
I picked this one because this is a character that, in my opinion, in many cases, stole the fucking show, and that there's only one thing that really needs to be said at the end of the film, and this character makes it very clear. Man, I told you not to go in their house.
That is actually my second favorite line. That is right. And but what is actually great is my favorite line happens mere seconds later from the same character, Rod, the stealer of the show for me. My favorite line was, I'm TS motherfucking A. We handle shit.
That was my second.
That's what we do. Consider this situation fucking handled. I like how we thought we weren't going to pick the same favorite lines, but dude, Rod was just the man. You can't help it.
Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I didn't know you were going to do the whole line, but that actually was my second favorite. I wasn't going to do the whole one. I was just going to do the TS motherfucking A.
Okay.
But so I didn't mean to fuck up your
you're good.
presentation.
It's all good.
But that's funny because that was my second one. That was actually that's fucking weird.
I do think though it solidifies me saying that I think Rod is the only correct choice for Movie Crush. I think you made a good choice as far as like, first impressions and all. But yeah, Rod was just the man. If he's full of one-liners like that, like you can't help but love Rod.
Agreed. Yeah, he was a great character, one of my favorites. Arguably the only character in the film that was any kind of lovable.
Yes, exactly. Like, I mean, almost everyone is a villain other than Chris and Rod. And Chris is a great character, but Chris is not unlikable, but there is nothing, like you're saying, there's nothing lovable about Chris. There's nothing that grabs you as like, oh, that was super endearing. He's great. He's there. He's a cool dude and all, but yeah.
He'd be the guy in your group of friends that you'd say, yeah, that's just Chris.
Yeah. He would be a quiet dude. Like I assume that. Yeah. All right. So, you ready for choices for next week?
Oh yeah, I recycled 2 of these from the last time.
Okay.
Would you like to watch a movie about someone that everyone loves to hate? A movie that may be about some of our relatives. That's right, you and me. Or a movie that I will pronounce very pretentiously.
I think I know which one I want to pick, and I think I know which movie it is too. Can I try to guess?
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I want to watch a movie that may be about some of our relatives, and is it Hillbilly Elegy?
Yes, it is.
Nailed it. Fuck yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And just for understanding, West Virginia is significant to both of us in some way.
A little bit, yeah. Mountain Mama, Take Me Home. Yep.
West Virginia.
You have not seen this one yet either, right?
No, I have not.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
This is another one that is if I remember correctly, the Tomatoes Hill. If I remember correctly, the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter and audience score are vastly different. Yes, this is another one. Let me pull this up here. Metacast Media. Oh fuck, my I don't know what's going on with my stream deck. I actually can't change scenes right now for some reason. Metacast trailer. This one works. Yeah, here we go. So tomato meter of 26%, audience score of 84%. There is a big gap between those two. So I'm interested. Like, this is not one where I think it's going to be very clear cut. Like, oh, that was great, or oh, that was bad. Like, it's interesting. Yeah. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm just weirded out by
the disparity between your face just looks shocked. You're like, what happened?
Because I'm actually looking at some of the information. Oh, fucking Amy Adams. Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah, I love her. Yep. So yeah, I'm excited. This will be a fun one. So yeah, guys, that is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you are watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the conversation, please hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Get Out.
If you would like to steal our bodies and replace our brains with yours, or If you want to further keep up to date or even join us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description below. We will be live next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylaTV.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you guys have a great week.